The night was dark, and the sky was heavy with the threat of rain. In a small, isolated village in the heart of what would later be known as East Anglia, a baby cried out. This was no ordinary cry. It was the cry of a newborn king, Rædwald, who would one day rule over a kingdom that would become a beacon of power and influence in the early Anglo-Saxon world. Rædwald's birth marked the beginning of a new era. His grandfather, Wuffa, had already established a name for himself as a powerful leader, and his father, Title, had continued to build on that legacy. But it was Rædwald who would truly transform the East Anglian kingdom into a force to be reckoned with. The early years of Rædwald's reign were marked by both triumph and turmoil. The land was divided, and the people were often at odds with each other, but Rædwald had a vision. He saw a united kingdom, a place where the East Angles could thrive and prosper. To achieve this, he had to navigate a complex web of alliances and rivalries. One of Rædwald's most significant achievements was his ability to balance the demands of his own people with those of the larger, more powerful kingdoms around him. He formed strategic alliances, particularly with the Mercians and the Northumbrians, which helped him secure his position as a powerful overlord. This was no small feat, as the early Anglo-Saxon world was a place of constant conflict and shifting loyalties. But Rædwald's rise to power was not without its challenges. One of the most significant was his encounter with Christianity. While Rædwald's own beliefs were rooted in the old pagan traditions, he recognized the growing influence of Christianity in the region. This led to a period of religious tension, as Rædwald struggled to reconcile his own beliefs with the new faith. Despite this, he eventually accepted Christianity, though he never fully embraced it, maintaining a foot in both worlds. Rædwald's reign was also marked by his military prowess. He led his people to victory in several key battles, including the famous Battle of the River Idle in 616, where he helped Edwin of Northumbria secure the throne. This victory cemented Rædwald's status as a Bretwalda, a title given to the most powerful king in southern England. As Rædwald's power grew, so did the wealth and influence of the East Anglian kingdom. The city of London, which was then under East Saxon control, became a bustling center of trade and commerce. The discovery of rare gold coins and primary series setas from the later 7th century provides evidence of the kingdom's early commercial importance. London's strategic location on the Thames made it an ideal hub for trade, and the East Anglian kings played a key role in its development. But Rædwald's reign was not just about power and wealth. He was also a patron of the arts and the church. One of his most notable contributions was the establishment of the abbey at Barking, which became a center of learning and spirituality. His sister Aethelberh was a nun at Barking, and the famous scholar Aldhelm wrote a treatise on virginity for the community there. This literary influence spread beyond the East Anglian kingdom, reflecting the broader cultural and religious developments of the time. Rædwald's legacy was not just in the wealth and power he brought to the East Anglian kingdom, but in the way he laid the foundations for a more stable and prosperous society. His ability to navigate the complex political landscape of the early Anglo-Saxon world and his strategic alliances ensured that the East Anglian kingdom would continue to thrive long after his death. The story of Rædwald and the East Anglian kingdom is one of ambition, conflict, and transformation. It is a story that began with the cry of a newborn king and would continue to shape the history of England for centuries to come. The history of the East Anglian kingdom is a tale of complex relationships, battles, and cultural exchanges that shaped the region from the early Anglo-Saxon period through to the Viking invasion. The story begins with the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons in the 5th century, who are thought to have settled in East Anglia before many other parts of Britain. By the 6th century, there was evidence of additional settlement from Scandinavia, marked by the use of distinctive sleeve or cuff clasps, which were used to fasten clothing. The most famous example of Scandinavian influence is the ship burial at Sutton Hoo, which shares many similarities with burials from the Vendel period in Sweden. This has led some scholars to suggest that the ruling Wuffingas dynasty might have had Swedish roots or even been related to the Geats, a people mentioned in the epic poem Beowulf. East Anglia's history is closely tied to the wider struggles for power in early medieval England. One of the earliest and most significant figures in this story is King Rædwald. According to the Ecclesiastical History by Bede, Rædwald was a powerful king who maintained a delicate balance between paganism and Christianity. He was influenced by King Ethelbert of Kent, who had converted to Christianity, but Rædwald continued to worship pagan gods alongside the Christian one. When Ethelbert died in 616, Rædwald became the dominant king in southern England. He used his military strength to protect Edwin of Deira, who was being pursued by the Northumbrian king Aethelfrith. Rædwald eventually defeated Aethelfrith at the Battle of the River Idle, helping Edwin to the Northumbrian throne. Rædwald's son, Earpold, was persuaded by Edwin to convert to Christianity in 627. However, a pagan backlash led to Earpold's assassination, and the kingdom briefly fell under the rule of a pagan named Ricbert. In 630 or 631, Sigebert, Earpold's brother, became king. Sigebert had been in exile in Francia and was already a Christian. He brought a new era to East Anglia, focusing on church patronage and religious reform. Sigebert's piety was so notable that he eventually retired to become a monk, leaving the kingdom to his kinsman Ecgric. When the kingdom came under attack from the Mercians, Sigebert was brought out of retirement to lead the army, but both he and Ecgric were killed in the battle. The next king, Anna, continued the tradition of church patronage. He faced significant challenges from the rising power of Mercia, particularly under King Penda. In the mid-650s, Penda launched a series of attacks on East Anglia, leading to the destruction of the monastery at Sinabrusburg and the temporary exile of King Anna. Eventually, Anna was killed in battle, and his brother Ethelher met a similar fate in 655, fighting alongside Penda's army at the Battle of the Winwood. The reigns of the subsequent kings Aethelwald, Aldwulf, and Aelfwald are less well documented but still important. Aldwulf, who ruled for about 50 years, is known for his long reign and the inclusion of East Anglia in the Synod of Hatfield, which underscores the kingdom's significance at the time. The East Anglian kings also maintained influence over neighboring regions, such as the Middle Angles and the East Saxons. For example, Aethelwald sponsored the baptism of Swithelm, king of the East Saxons, and Aelfwald showed interest in the life of the Middle Anglian Saint Guthlac. In the late 8th and early 9th centuries, East Anglia faced new challenges. In 749, the kingdom was divided among three kings, Hun, Baena, and Albert. Baena emerged as the dominant ruler, minting coins in his name. His successor, Aethelred, was the father of Saint Aethelbert, who became king in 779. The kingdom came under the control of Offa of Mercia in the early 790s, but Aethelbert briefly regained power before being killed by Offa in 794. After Offa's death, East Anglia experienced a period of autonomy under kings like Eadwald and Athelstan. Athelstan was particularly notable for his resistance to Mercian control, and he is recorded as having defeated the Mercian kings Beornwulf and Ludica. The last known East Anglian king, Edmund, came to the throne in 855 and was killed by the Great Heathen Army in 869. This event marked the end of independent East Anglian rule, and the region came under Danish control until its reconquest by Edward the Elder. The East Anglian kings were not only warriors, but also patrons of the church and cultural ambassadors. Their interactions with Frankish and Irish clergy, as well as their involvement in the establishment of monasteries, show a kingdom that was deeply connected to the wider Christian world. The burial at Sutton, who, with its mix of Scandinavian, Frankish, and Byzantine influences, is a perfect example of this cultural exchange. The East Anglian king's ability to balance military power with religious and cultural diplomacy made them significant players in the early medieval landscape of England. Ipswich, a town just 12 miles from Sutton Hoo and the royal Ville of Rendlesham, was a bustling trading hub from the early 7th century. This place was likely under royal control and had a large pottery industry, the only one of its kind in southern England during the Middle Saxon period. Pottery from Ipswich has been found all over East Anglia and parts of Middle Anglia, showing how far-reaching its trade was. Foreign items found there suggest trade with Neustria, a region in what is now France, but trade with the Rhineland, often handled by Frisian traders, was even more significant. This difference in trading patterns might explain why East Anglia didn't start producing its own coins as early as Kent did. The earliest East Anglian coins, called sedas, appeared during the reigns of Aldwulf and Aelfwald. By the middle of the 8th century, coin production became very important in East Anglia. King Baena made the first attempt to improve the silver content of the coins, similar to reforms by King Eadbert in Northumbria. Baena's coins were the first in southern England to regularly carry the king's name. Later, King Offa introduced a new type of penny coinage, similar to those used in the Carolingian Empire, but local kings continued to mint coins in their own names whenever they could. Kent and East Anglia had strong ties due to their common interests in the North Sea. This connection is first evident in King Aethelbert's efforts to convert Rædwald to Christianity. When East Anglia became Christian, the bond grew stronger. The first bishop of East Anglia, Felix, was sent from Kent, and for a while East Anglia recognized the authority of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Princess Sixbar, daughter of King Anna of East Anglia, married Ersenbert of Kent, and their daughter Ersingoda lived with her East Anglian aunts. Aima, a Then in the Northumbrian army, was captured and sold into slavery in London. He was able to get money for his ransom from H. Luther, Sixbar's son, because he had once served Sixberth's sister, Aethelthryth. Kentish connections also helped establish links between East Anglia and the Magan seat on the western borders of Mercia. The East Anglian royal family also had close ties with the Northumbrian royal house. Rædwald played a crucial role by defeating and killing the Bernician king Aethelfrith, helping the Deira dynasty. Aethelric of East Anglia married Herriswith, the niece of Edwin of Northumbria, and her sister Hild came to East Anglia before a reconciliation between the two Northumbrian dynasties. The Deira monk Ceolfrith studied monastic practices at Aiken in Suffolk before being appointed to Wearmouth. Bede the historian had an East Anglian contact in Abbot Esi, though the location of his monastery is unknown. Aethelthryth, the daughter of King Anna, married Egfrith of Northumbria, though the marriage was not successful. In the 8th century, references to East Anglia are scarce, but records in northern annals suggest continued contact, especially with Baena's coinage reforms, which were influenced by Northumbrian practices. Northumbria and East Anglia were natural allies, both wanting to limit Mercia's power and sharing commercial interests along the North Sea. The succession of kings in East Anglia from Rædwald to Aelfwald shows a pattern of keeping the throne within a narrow family group. Rædwald was succeeded by his son Earpold, who was then killed and possibly succeeded by Ricbert. Sigebert, Earpold's brother, eventually took the throne after a period of exile in Francia. Sigebert later resigned in favor of Ecgric, who may have been his relative. Anna, Aethelher, and Aethelwald, sons of Rædwald's brother Ini, ruled in turn. Aethelwald was succeeded by his nephew Aldwulf, and Aldwulf's son Aelfwald. Baena, who may not have been from the same family, took the throne next, and later, Aethelred and his son Aethelbert ruled. The lack of detailed records makes it hard to trace the succession after Aelfwald. East Anglia's administration is not well documented, but there are hints of a major political division similar to the east-west split in Kent. Kingdom had only one bishopric at Damok, which is believed to be Dunwich or Felixstowe. Later, Archbishop Theodore divided the see, creating a new episcopal centre at North Elmham, with the Waveney River as the boundary. This division might have reflected an older political split. When Sigebert retired to a monastery, he handed the kingdom to Ecgric, who had previously ruled part of it. This suggests a bipartite division. After Anna's death, both Aethelher and Aethelwald are described as his successors, implying they ruled together. In the 8th century, the kingdom was divided among Hun, Baena, and Albert, though only Baena minted coins. The Wuffingas, the royal family of East Anglia, were more closely associated with Suffolk than Norfolk. Sutton Hoo, Snape, and Rendlesham, important royal sites, are all in Suffolk. The first bishopric was in Suffolk, and more monasteries were patronized by the royal family there. The Wuffingas Centre was likely in the southeast coastal area of Suffolk, which retained a distinct administrative identity in later centuries. Their control of Norfolk may have come later. We know little about the male members of the royal family, who did not become kings, or about the nobility. Bede mentions Owain, a monk who came to Northumbria with Queen Aethelthryth, and Aima, a Then who later served the Northumbrian kings. East Anglian princesses were important for political marriages. Aethelthryth's marriage to Tonbert of the South Jurwy helped integrate the region into East Anglia. Aethelfrith founded a double monastery at Ely, which may have been an administrative center. Her sister Siegsbar and Siegsbar's daughter Ermenhild later ruled Ely. King Elfwald's sister Egbbar was an abbess, likely at Ely. Another tradition suggests that Saint Withbar, possibly a daughter of King Anna, was buried at East Dereham. The East Anglian kings supported the church. Sigebert founded the see at Dalmok and the monastery at Sint-Albersberg, and may have established a third house, possibly Bury St. Edmunds. Anna is associated with Blithburg and Eichen, which he may have founded in his final year. King Elfwald mentioned 7 monasteries where prayers were offered for Boniface's mission. The second see at North Elmham and the double monasteries at Ely and East Dereham were also significant. Recent excavations at Burrow Hill and Brandon in Suffolk suggest these sites may have been religious communities. The ability of East Anglia to recover from Mercian conquest and survive until the Danish invasions indicates a strong royal administration and control of resources. Despite the lack of records, East Anglia shows parallels with Kent in early overlordship, links with Francia, wealth from trade, and a narrow royal succession. These similarities likely stem from similar opportunities rather than direct borrowing. Both kingdoms had powerful and wealthy royal families in the early 7th century, and their extensive seaboards provided easy contact with the continent, reducing the need for westward expansion. The Kingdom of Northumbria, a powerful realm in what is now northern England and southern Scotland, was formed by merging 2 smaller kingdoms, Bernicia and Deira. Thanks to the writings of a monk named Bede, we have a fairly detailed history of this region, especially from the 7th and 8th centuries. Bede, a scholar from the monastery of Jarrow, was particularly interested in Northumbria, and his work, The Ecclesiastical History of the English People, is a treasure trove of information about the kings and events that shaped this kingdom. Bede's history is not just a dry list of dates and battles. He often uses the stories of kings and saints to teach moral lessons, believing that history should show how God interacts with the world. For example, he tells us about King Edwin, who was exiled as a young man and later returned to rule both Bernicia and Deira. Edwin's story is full of drama and adventure, with a twist of divine providence. When Edwin was in exile, he was protected by King Rædwald of East Anglia. Aethelfrith, the king who had driven Edwin into exile, tried to bribe Rædwald to kill Edwin, but Rædwald's wife reminded him of his duty to protect those who sought refuge with him. In the end, Rædwald chose to do the right thing and defeated Aethelfrith in battle, paving the way for Edwin to become king. Edwin's reign was marked by his conversion to Christianity, which was influenced by his marriage to a Christian princess from Kent. He became a powerful overlord, ruling over many other Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. However, his success was short-lived. In 633, Edwin was killed in battle against Cadwallon of Gwynedd and Penda of Mercia. This battle not only ended Edwin's reign, but also split Northumbria back into its 2 original kingdoms, with Eanfrith ruling Bernicia and Osric ruling Deira. Both of these kings were pagans, and were quickly defeated by Cadwallon, who had them killed. After the chaos of these events, Oswald, another son of Aethelfrith, rose to power. Oswald was a Christian, having been converted while in exile in Ireland. He brought Christianity back to Northumbria, inviting missionaries from the Irish monastery of Iona to spread the faith. Oswald was a strong and just ruler, and he too became an overlord of many kingdoms. However, his reign was also cut short when he was killed in battle against the pagan Penda of Mercia in 642. Oswald was later venerated as a saint, and Bede paints him as a model of Christian kingship, though he doesn't always show the full picture of Oswald's leadership and the challenges he faced. Bede's focus on the 7th century means that we have less information about the kings who ruled in the 8th century. However, other writers like Stephanus, the biographer of St. Wilfrid, provide additional details about this period. Stephanus's work is particularly valuable because it gives us a different perspective, often focusing on the political intrigues and personal conflicts that shaped Northumbrian history. The 9th century is a bit of a mystery, with fewer written records to guide us. The Viking raids that began in the late 8th century and intensified in the 9th led to the destruction of many monastic archives, including those that might have contained valuable historical documents. This means that much of what we know about the later years of Northumbria comes from later compilations and the study of coins, which can provide a relative chronology of the reigns of kings. Despite these challenges, the early history of Northumbria remains a fascinating and important part of Anglo-Saxon history. The rivalries between the kings of Bernicia and Deira, the spread of Christianity, and the impact of Viking invasions all played crucial roles in shaping the kingdom and its legacy. Through the works of Bede and other writers, we can catch glimpses of a dynamic and often tumultuous period in Britain's past. Oswiu, a man of great ambition and ruthlessness, succeeded his brother Oswald as the king of Northumbria. His reign was marked by struggles to unify the two kingdoms of Bernicia and Deira. Initially, the Bernicians were more accepting of Oswiu, while the Deirans were less so. To gain the Deirans' trust, Oswiu married Eanfled, a princess from the Deiran royal house. Despite this, Oswiu faced significant resistance, including the murder of Oswine, a Deiran king, which he orchestrated to solidify his power. This act created tension within his own family, as Eanfled was related to Oswine, but she chose to accept compensation and helped Oswiu reconcile with the Deiran royal family through the establishment of a monastery at Gilling. Oswiu's strategies also involved the church. He placed his daughter Elfled in the care of Hild, a Deiran princess and abbess, at the monastery of Whitby. This move was both a political and a personal gesture, as it brought Deiran and Bernician royal families closer together. Whitby became a symbol of the new unity, housing the remains of both King Edwin and Oswiu, and serving as a key religious and political center. The unification of Bernicia and Deira was not immediate or smooth. Oswiu's son Egfrith initially ruled Deira through his brother Aelfwine, but after Aelfwine was killed in battle, Egfrith finally united the two kingdoms in 679. This marked the true beginning of a united Northumbria, though the administrative division between Bernicia and Deira remained significant. Northumbria's relationship with the southern kingdoms of England was complex. Deira, due to its geographical location, had closer ties with the south. Edwin, for example, spent his exile in various southern kingdoms, and later married a daughter of Ethelbert of Kent. These alliances were reinforced through marriages and alliances, such as Oswald and Aldfrith marrying West Saxon princesses. However, the relationship with Mercia was particularly fraught. Mercia and Northumbria were often at odds, with battles like the one at the river Winwood, where Oswiu defeated Penda of Mercia, shaping the power dynamics of the region. Despite this, there were attempts to mend relations through marriages, such as those between the children of Oswiu and Penda, though these often ended tragically. The Church played a crucial role in Northumbria's interactions with the south. The Synod of Whitby in 664, where Oswiu decided to follow the practices of the Roman Church, marked a significant step towards integrating Northumbria with the southern kingdoms. This decision had far-reaching implications, affecting religious practices and political alliances. By the end of Egfrith's reign, Northumbria's focus began to shift away from southern politics. The defeat at Nechtensmere in 685 marked a turning point, and subsequent kings like Aldfrith, while maintaining some links, no longer engaged in the same level of political involvement south of the Humber. This shift in orientation reflected a changing Northumbria, one that was more inward-looking and focused on its own internal affairs and the challenges posed by neighboring Celtic kingdoms. Northumbria's interactions with the Celtic kingdoms, including the Picts and the Britons, were also significant. These relationships were often marked by conflict and competition for resources and influence. The Northumbrian kings, particularly Oswald and Oswiu, conducted campaigns against the Picts and the Britons, expanding their territory and consolidating their power. However, the influence of Celtic Christianity, particularly through figures like Aidan of Lindisfarne, also left a lasting impact on Northumbrian culture and religious life. In summary, the early Northumbrian kings, from Oswald to Aldfrith, navigated a complex web of alliances, conflicts, and cultural exchanges. Their efforts to unify Bernicia and Deira, their interactions with southern England, and their engagements with Celtic kingdoms shaped the foundation of the Northumbrian kingdom. Through these actions, Northumbria emerged as a powerful and influential force in early medieval Britain, leaving a legacy that would continue to influence the region for centuries to come.